when you're thinking about your design or creating a business, it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes practice. Nature's been practicing with the mole for a long time, and so there's a learning curve involved. So one permaculture design principle that I think is being incorporated more and more into the base resource industries is to use biological services and renewable resources as much as possible. If we can tie some value in our business into a biological service, and some examples of that might be biofuels production, where, say for example, we're using algae to generate oils that can be turned into biodiesel, and just the incredible productivity that algae has for photosynthesis. So from a business perspective, we can set up our production systems to be as efficient as possible by having each element perform multiple functions, and by connecting those elements. Just as an example, on a fairly small office type scale, we could take waste from the paper shredder and use it as a carbon source for the worm bin, that composts food scraps from the lunchroom that feeds the employee vegetable garden out back, and all of a sudden we're getting waste reduction in the form of, now we don't have the shredded paper that has to go out in the paper recycling bin. Free compost, a satisfying activity for employees on break. Remember, this is not just about the environment, it's about taking care of people. And so in businesses, especially those I think that aren't sort of traditional resource that base the forest, water, ag, minerals, and so on, I think that the resource that permaculture is going to most apply to is people, in terms of taking care of them and making sure that they have what they need to thrive. Produce no waste is a principle in and of itself that is certainly being echoed around the sustainability circles today. One person's trash is another person's treasure is another way of thinking about that. And you know, in the construction industry, that's a potentially big opportunity, is looking for novel materials that can be used in different ways, like the building blocks that are made from wood chips and coated with clay and then mixed with a cement type application. One of the challenges in trying to teach permaculture is that everything is related to everything else, and so there's all these different tangents that we can go off on, and the design principles come from nature, and so I had a difficult time deciding whether to talk about nature first or talk about the design principles first, and so we end up kind of going back and forth in between. Another aspect or design principle is to catch and store energy and materials, not necessarily to say hoard, but to think about the resources that are passing through our hands and how we could potentially use those to create something that we aren't right now. Things like waste materials, we send a tremendous amount of nutrients to the ocean right now through our sewer system, and also through agricultural runoff. Those are opportunities that are essentially lost. Stormwater runoff would be another example that is I think we're starting to make some inroads on, in terms of green roofs and rainwater harvest and downspout disconnects and pervious pavement, etc.